Hello, this is Jolie with Crochet Basics, and in this episode I'm going to show you how to make, I'm calling it a Bree doll. So I don't normally name my patterns after people unless I'm making them for a specific person. So with that being said, this one's for Bree and for Sunny. So I'm using small amounts of acrylic yarn. You don't need a lot. I have a few different colors out, what have you. So you need stuffing, safety eyes, or buttons. You can use buttons on this one. Not for a small child, of course, because you know they'll chew on the buttons and stuff if they're teething. Embellishments, a needle and thread, a yarn needle. I'm using an F hook. No, that's a G. Okay, I'm using an F hook, sorry, which is an F5 US sizes, 3.75 millimeter. Hook, scissor, boo, boo, boo. Oh, and a scrap piece of yarn in a contrasting color, because that's what we're using as a stitch marker for this one. So I don't have one cut, so I'll just cut one now. You don't really need a tape measure for this one, but you know, I always say like a tape measure is always welcomed. And if you haven't seen any of my other videos or what have you, I'll tell you, please subscribe because I'm fun. I teach you, you know, all the basics and stuff, and beyond, all the basics and beyond. So I'm using Red Heart Super Saver, and I love the acrylic, size 4 medium weight, and then it's worsted, which is the layers, the ply. Okay, so this one is Cafe Latte, which is a nice cocoa brown, because we love the coffee. Keeps us awake, right? Keeps us motivated. So you're going to chain 2. So if you start with a slip knot, I do not. I do a little crossover on my hook. That's just how I was taught. So that's just how I learned, and if you do a slip knot, that's fine, of course. Alright, so you're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and in that second chain from the hook, you're going to do 6 single crochets, and you're going to work around your tail so that it saves on weaving in later on, and then also it'll close up that loop that we're going into, because sometimes that'll expand when you put all the stitches in. So 6 single crochets for row 1 in the second chain from your hook. Alright, so we'll pull that nice and tight, and from here we're going to add in our scrap yarn right in between your last stitch and your first. Now there's no slip stitch or what have you in this. We're just working straight in the circle. So for row 2, you'll do 2 single crochets in each stitch, and you should end up with 12. So we're increasing. Okay, so you'll move your scrap yarn to the back. And just be careful not to go through your scrap yarn, because then you won't be able to pull it out. You'll have to cut it out later on. And also, always, I'd mention this in other videos, of course, but always be mindful when you're using a scrap yarn, sometimes it covers up your first stitch, and you can end up dropping a stitch and not even, you know, not realizing it until later on, like, where is my stitch? Where did it go? So, okay, for row 3, you're going to do 2 single crochets in the first one, and then 1 in the next, and you'll repeat that for the row with the increase, 2 in one and then 1 stitch in the next, and you should end up with 18 stitches. Okay, so you'll move your scrap yarn to the front, and then we're going to do one last row of increase. So row 4, you're going to do 2 in the first and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So 1 single crochet, then move on, 1 single crochet, and you'll repeat that all the way around, and you should end up with 24 stitches at the end of this row. So I end up with 24, and it's a little curved. It's not, you know, ridiculously curved at this point. Okay, so now from row 5 to row 8, so for the next 4 rows, from row 5 to row 8, just 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around, and follow your stitch marker. All right, and I will be back in a moment. I'm not going to eat up your time, so I'll be back in a moment. All right, so I just finished row 8. Sorry, I just finished row 8. So from here, all right, pull your yarn some, okay? We're going to do our eyes from here. And this is what it looks like so far. It's a tiny little, no, it's a cup actually. It's a little tiny, it looks like a little tiny hat. How funny is that? Okay. So now, if you've never seen me do safety eyes, if you don't know what they are little eyeballs that have a back that the eyes themselves have ridges, okay, and the back snaps on. And the whole point of them, if you do not know, if you do know, fast forward. If you do not know, the whole point of them is so that they don't come out and they don't, you know, fall out. Baby doesn't eat them off. You know, buttons can come off because they're sewn on and all of that. And teething kids and things of that nature. Okay, so that's, or not, doesn't have to be just babies. It could be pets too, you know. Anyway. You can get them at the craft store. You can get them online. If you get them online, sometimes they'll come scratched. It's just the packaging and the shipping. That's just how it goes. I had ordered a whole bunch from eBay, and I was super excited. And most of them are scratched. I can't even use them. Okay, so they do scratch easily. So you never want to put a pair of pliers on them. On the front, you don't want to ever put like anything that'll scratch on the front. All right, and if you're going to use my method, you want to protect your surface. You want to protect your eye, you know, your eyes. Let me see what I got here. I got a dish towel because I'm in my kitchen. Usually I use felt sheets, you know, the sheets of felt to protect my surface, what have you, so that, and protect the eye itself. So I'm going with smaller eyes. I'm going with 6mm eyes. And they're pretty small. Which is fine. But they come all different sizes, colors, solid black, or, you know, these are brown. I don't know if the color is going to show on there. Alright, here's a brown one. Here's a bigger one. I think this may be a 12mm, I'm not sure. Okay, either way. My method is not for everyone. So maybe you don't want to use my method, which is fine. I use an adjustable screwdriver that the head pulls out. The tip of the flathead or the Phillips side pulls out, and it has a little hole, and it has a bigger hole on this side, okay, and a tiny little hammer. It's a 4-ounce hammer that I got from Lowe's, and it's very lightweight. You know, it's very lightweight. We're not swinging it like, you know, we're not building a house. We're just putting in some safety eyes. Once you use them, if your placement is off, then, you know, like, they're done. You can't, you have to cut them out. There's no positioning, you know, once you get the back on, because the back snaps on, so you really can't. And that's the whole point of them. The whole point of them is for safety's sake, to keep them in place and all that good stuff. All right. So with this, you want to make sure you're not near your working yarn or anything like that, you know, the yarn that we're pulling through and all that good stuff. Okay, so I'm setting mine wider apart. I like them wider apart. All right, and if you listen, you might be able to hear the snap. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. Okay, so that was one ridge, and that's two ridges. Okay, you can see the ridges. There you go. Oh, I got it down all three ridges on that one. Now, the reason I do this with the hammer and the adjustable screwdriver is that I don't always have the strength to get it all the way down. It's hard and it hurts my fingers because, you know, I am a delicate flower. If you did not know, I'm very delicate. So what I do, okay, protect your surface. You do not want to put a pair of pliers or anything on the front of this eye. It will scratch. I promise you, it will scratch. I used pliers one time and I thought I was being slick. I taped up the pliers with masking tape. Still scratched. Still scratched. So, all right, and I put this on the back. Make sure this is smaller than your back piece if you're going to use this method. Okay? And a whack will do ya. Just to make sure it's nice and tight and snug and it's not going anywhere. Okay? Because you don't want this to come out. You want it to snap on and stay in place. Okay, so if you could see it, it's all the way down. Nice and tight and snug, and that's where my eyes will be. Now, if you don't have one of these, but you want to use a hammer because you're funny, like me, I don't have a pair of pliers out, but you would protect your surface, and you would take the pliers and put it on the back, and then just give the pliers a whacking, okay? That's how you would do it if you didn't have an adjustable head screwdriver, you know, so just in case you wanted to know. And I do have a video up. I'm not sure what number it is. I'll put the number on the screen. It's got a picture with a bunch of owls. And it just all tips and tricks and stuff. Different things that I do with the amigurumis. So if you wanted to check that out, maybe something will inspire you or help you or what have you. All right, so now from here, this is where we first started. This is our first starting tail. Pull it tight, nice and tight, firm grip on it, and make a little knot. I always say I've never seen that knot come out because you crocheted all your stitches around it, and that'll hold your stitches, that starting hole, nice and tight. That starting chain stitch, that'll hold it nice and tight, so that it doesn't come loose, our stuffing's not going to come out of it, and all that good stuff. If this is in your way, you can just snip it off. Not a big deal whatsoever, which is what I always tell you with little things like that. If you are using the safety eyes, I'll remind you again, but if you are using the safety eyes, when you stuff, make sure you get a good amount of stuffing around the back of these posts and in between so that they stay where you want them to be. And they're popped out, you know, like they're not sinking in or what have you. Okay? All right, let's continue on. Why do I have so many hooks out? I got 2 G hooks out for some reason. And the F that I'm using, I don't know why. Okay, so now from here, we are dropping. We're dropping stitches. So for row 9, we're going to start doing our decreases, and you're going to, you know, of course, move your scrap yarn. All right, let me take a gander at my pattern. And if you could hear it, my neighbor has a table saw going. Okay, so we're going to drop 2 stitches. We're going to crochet them together. TOG. T-O-G is the abbreviation if you do not know. Alright, and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 together. So that should bring you back down to 18 stitches. For row 10, you're going to do 1 single crochet in each. Oh, okay. I just realized that I usually give you a little whatever tips on placing the eyes and all of that, and I don't think I did that this time. So I am sorry for that if you are a newbie to making these. If you do need help with the eyes, then I guess you could check out the Amigurumi video that I do have up there. You just want to make sure that they're in the same row, spaced however far apart you want them. Of course, you want your item to have a different look maybe than mine or what have you, but very important, just make sure they're in the same row. If you're doing this, either way, if you're doing the safety eyes, button eyes, whatever eyes you're doing, just in the same row and nice and spaced, still a little apart or what have you, depending on the look you're going for. With that, I'm sorry about that. Usually I give you a little lesson, but, sometimes I'm forgetful, hey, but you'll figure it out, I guess. Okay, so what did we just say? Row 10. Row 10 is 1 single crochet all the way around. Follow your stitch marker, your scrap yarn, of course. Oh, and get your stuffing ready because we are gonna drop and close up the head. So get your stuffing ready. If you're working it with me, I don't know, I hope that you work it with me, but hey. So now from here we're gonna just start dropping. We're gonna drop it like it's hot. All right, so get your stuffing, and let's drop on row 11. We're gonna drop, and then from row 11, that's when you're gonna start stuffing your stuff. Okay. For row 11, you're gonna do the first 2 stitches together, and then 1 single crochet in the next, and you'll repeat it all the way around as far as dropping. And after this you should end up with 12 stitches, a way smaller hole than what you got right now. Alright, so from here we're going to start stuffing, and if you use the safety eyes, make sure you get a lot around the posts, so that they're nice and cushioned. And you don't want to overstuff. The whole point of the small hook with the fat yarn, with the nice thick yarn, is so that you don't see your stuffing in between, so you don't want to stretch out your stitches. You don't want the white to show in between. So that's always a rule that I go by. I mean, there's kind of no way really around it, because it's, it's crochet. It's not a solid piece of fabric. But I always think if it was a solid piece of fabric, you would not see that stuffing. So that's why I always, I always opt for a way smaller hook than what the yarn label says if I'm doing, a stuffed item, amigurumi, or, like a pillow or whatever I'm making that's stuffed. Okay, so now you know, in case you didn't. So what you're going to do here, all right, so you'll sorry, I'm getting a little tongue twisted here. Okay, so what you're gonna do from here is you're going to start dropping every stitch. So if you would like, you can take out your scrap yarn. You want to support it. You don't want to yank it and mess up your stitches. if you are pulling and pulling and it's not coming out, there's a good shot that you accidentally went through a couple of strands of it and you might have to cut it out. I'm just letting you know. Don't yank it till it breaks, because then it's harder to get in and get it out. Another method of getting it out is you can use a hook, maybe the hook you're using, or a smaller hook, and feed it out. If you think that you snagged it, okay? I don't think I snagged it. I think I stuffed it and made it, you know, stick, which I just showed you I'm correct. All right, so I'm just going to take it right out and put that aside. We'll need it again. All right, so from here, what you're going to do is you're going to put your finger and hold the stuffing down. And before you completely close this head up, make sure you have enough stuffing, because once it's ooh, what am I doing here? Talking too much. That's what I'm doing. Because once once it's stuffed, sorry, once it's sealed up, that's it. You're done. Okay. So from row 11. Is that what row we were on? No, I'm lying. Okay, row 12. So from row 12 until it is sealed, every 2 stitches together. Okay, try not to hit your stuffing and all that wonderfulness that occurs when you're closing up. Okay, and don't worry if you mush up the head and mash it up or whatever. As long as you have enough stuffing, you're going to have to reshape anyway, because once we put the head on and once we sew it to the body and all that good stuff. So don't worry about that. Have to reshape anyway. But just make sure you have enough stuffing as far as you're satisfied with the look. You know, this is my piece. You're making your piece. I want you to be happy with your piece. You know, I don't want you to try and duplicate exactly what I'm doing, and then you're like, no, I don't like the eyes there, or I don't like the hair that way, or what have you. You know, this is your piece. This is your Ami. This is your Bree doll, because that's what I named this one, Bree. All right, and that's my little hole right there, and I'm gonna close that right up right now. And I know it gets tricky when you're stuffing, you know, when you're stuffed. Now what I usually do at this point is, when I can't get my hook in any further, I pull a tail, and I'll usually do a couple of stitches with a yarn needle just to seal her up, make sure it's nice and sealed. So that's our head so far. Okay, and depending on where you put your eyes, you can flip it either way, because she doesn't have a mouth and it's even. You want your eyes a little bit lower down, because don't forget, we're giving her hair. We're going to give her some nice long hair. And yep, I'm skinning my yarn here. Okay, do it with a plastic jammy. Plastic needles are fine too, but when it's a smaller item, I try and use the metal so that it's smaller holes and not too much. Okay, now the best part about the amigurumis that are stuffed, and I kid you not, this is my favorite part, is that I do not have to weave anything in. As far as the dolls are concerned, a few stitches through, right through, okay? Then a couple of knots, and I pull it right, and I push the knot right inside, which I love that, because weaving in, it's kind of hassling, you know, because you want it to blend and all that stuff. You don't want it sticking, you know, that you Weaving in with multicolored yarn, oh dear Lord, you can lose your mind trying to do that. I'll tell you that much. If you've never tried it. Okay, here is my knot. If I cannot, this is just in general as far as whatever it is I'm making. If I cannot push it back through the hole that I just pulled it through, what I do is either I try and catch it with a hook, just going through the side, and I try and catch the bottom of it with the hook. Alright, and if I can't do that, I'll push it right back through with my needle, pulling on the pulling on the tail. Trying to, okay, so right there, that's where I pulled out from. I'll push it right through and pop it in. Okay, that's just a side note or a trick or a tip or whatever. If you have the same problem, if you can't get that knot back in there, pull it tight, snip your excess. You can always shove it in, but sometimes shoving the excess yarn in is more trouble than it's worth. You'll sit there like, and you lose your mind. Okay, so that's our head so far. This is our Bree's head, our Bree doll's head. Okay, so I'm going to put the head aside for now. Now, I was going to do her shoes in black. You can do her shoes in black if you like, but I had a problem with it. My black yarn is thicker. Even though it's, you know, I tell you this all the time, a lot of times with the medium, the worsted weight and whatever, just because it's worsted weight and that's what it's labeled as, does not mean that it is exactly the same thickness as a different brand, or even a different color sometimes. And just, you know, in case you didn't realize that, or you didn't know, if you're a newbie, if you've been, you know, doing this a while, then you do know that already. And I'm just wasting your time chatting you up. Okay. So with this, I think I'll go for yellow shoes. I'm going to go for yellow shoes. Why not, right? I'm going to chain 2. 1, 2. Oh, wait. I need yarn in a different color. There's a scrap. Ah, there we go. Always thinking. Okay. All right. So you'll chain 2, and in that second chain from the hook, you'll do 6 single crochets, and just like we started, you'll crochet around that tail. So you'll pull that nice and tight, tighten up that loop. Okay. So there's some scrap yarn. So for row 2, you'll do 2 single crochets in each stitch all the way around. We're working the foot to the leg at this point. So we worked our head for row 2 of your foot, your feet. 2 single crochet in each stitch. Oh, we're still in the F hook, right? We said F at 3.75 millimeter. So from here, we're going to do the same thing we just did with the head and make a knot. Just be careful not to hit your working yarn and all that good stuff, but we want to tighten this up nice and early so we're done. So we could just go on, because the leg is a tube. And unless you're going to try and pop that sucker inside out, you're not going to get back to that knot if you work too far up. So might as well take care of it in the beginning and then have no worries about it later on. So this is the start of our foot, our shoe. Now make sure you keep this pulled out, more pulled out than not. Meaning only a little bit inside, because once you're working it up, the leg, because it's a tube, it makes it hard just in general to get this all the way out, kind of a thing. So kind of a thing, I always say that. That's I get that from my girlfriend Mina. My girlfriend Mina always said that when we worked together. We're not increasing anymore. You're going to do, move your stitch marker. So for row 3, you'll do 1 single crochet in each stitch. So for row 4, you're going to do 1 single crochet in the first 3 stitches. All right, so from here we're going to do a, we're going to drop 2 stitches in a row. And then work the rest in a single crochet. So that's what that looks like so far. Okay, so now from here we're going to switch colors to back to the skin color. So you'll go in, you'll pull up a loop in the color you're still working in, and then add in your skin color. And you pull everything nice and tight. From here, you're going to work 1 single crochet and stuff as you go. You don't want to get all the way to the end and then have to try and get the stuffing all the way down to the bottom. So you want to stuff as you go. Alright, so now from here, from row 5 through row 14. For the next 9 rows, you're going to do it in the skin color that you're using, whatever your skin color is. Mine is cafe latte or latte cafe or some kind of something like that. All I know is that it's yummy when it is edible. Cafe latte, which is a medium brown, I think. I'm going to go with medium brown color. Alright, so you'll follow your stitch marker. And I started working mine in the brown, using brown as a stitch marker, and then for some reason I guess my mind isn't working so well today, so I changed out my scrap yarn to the yellow so that I can see it for this part of the leg. Alright, so from row 5 through row 14, follow your stitch marker up, 1 stitch in each, and you should have, it should be 10 stitches in the row. So, so I made a big mess. No, I'm kidding. Alright, so I have my 2 legs made, and for the most part. Now what I always tell you is when it's 2 of 1 items, 2 legs, 2 arms, what have you, to paws, whatever, to just put them side by side before you attach them and all of that kind of thing whenever you can, because sometimes the first time when you're making something you're paying way more attention, or you know you're very intense with your tension, because that happens. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is whatever color you're going to do your dress in. So I have yellow shoes, and I'm doing my dress in baby pink and pale yellow to match the shoes. Okay, so whatever color you're gonna do that in, switch to that color for 1 last row, for row 15 on the legs, and then we're gonna make sure we're all stuffed up and move on to making the bottom, the tushy, and work our way up to the dress, the body and the dress. So I did row 15 was a pink row. This is the bottom, the underneath of the dress, or her undies, if you will. I guess you can consider it her underwear. Alright, so I'm going to cut in right here, and I'm just adjusting the pattern because I did not like the way that I sealed up the legs, or I told you to seal up the legs for the original pattern. So with that, what you're going to do is make sure that your legs are totally stuffed and ready to go. You can put them up against each other and make sure that they look as even as possible, as even as they could possibly be. They're all stuffed, totally stuffed, what have you. Now, we were working 10 stitches around, So what you're going to do is you're going to end up having to add a stitch right here. So you're going to squeeze the top of the leg shut, line up your single crochet, and go in the front, straight to the back, and do a single crochet. So do 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. In the center of the leg, do 2 single crochets in that center stitch. Okay, and then you'll finish sealing up the leg. So it should be 6 stitches, 6 single crochet per top of the leg. 3, 4, 5, 6. Alright, so line up, take your other leg, make sure they're even, and the you know, if you're where you added in your yarn for the color change, if that shows, make sure that's all lined up and all of that, so that you're nice and even on this. And so you'll take your second leg, you'll squeeze it shut, you're not cutting off or anything, and you'll just do another single crochet straight into the next top of the leg. So, and you want 6 on that leg also, 6 single crochets. So then from here you'll chain 1 and you'll work around back to the regular pattern. But one thing, when you're going to work the rows that I tell you to work back in the regular pattern, not this, not these legs, the regular legs, just make sure that the right side of the stitches is facing you, so that you're working around in the circle. Okay, if that makes sense, because once we finish up this bottom part and we go to do the skirt, it could throw off where your stitches are for the skirt. Okay, so with that, back to the regular pattern, and I hope you like making this. That's all. Okay, so from here I want you to chain 1, alright, and we're going to start working in the round. So what you're going to do is you're only going to pick up one side of the braid. Alright, you see how it's a braid? You're going to pick up the back loops. So you just chained 1, okay, just to give you the wiggle room. So you're going to pick up one side of the braid all the way around and do 1 single crochet in each. So we did 12, I'm sorry, we did 12 across. Alright, so picking up 1 in each, you should end up with 24, because we're back loops only, and that's all the way around. So fold that front part down if you need to, so that it's not in your way and you don't start picking up the wrong stitches. Alright, so that's 24. So now you have 2 rows, and it should look okay, so now you should I'm trying to keep it so that the light is above it and you could see it. So we started here and we worked all the way around. Alright, so this is what it should look like, and this inside is our cavity where, you know, we're going to eventually stuff and all that good stuff. Alright, so from here you can add a stitch marker if you like. Where is my, in a contrasting color. Alright. I got a yellow. So for the next 4 rows, okay, so there's no slip stitch, what have you. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I forgot to zoom out. Sorry. Oh, okay. All right, so for the next 4 rows, you'll use your stitch marker and you'll work all the way around, 1 in each, 24 all the way around. So for the next 4 rows, so we're up to row 2 of the body, 2, right? So 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. What did I say? All right, 4 rows. I'm sorry, I'm reading my pattern and I'm like a little cuckoo. All right, but follow your stitch marker up and go from there. And I will be back when I finish row 6, and then we will move on from there. So now I just finished, I'm up to row 6 here. I just finished row 6 on the bottoms, and I don't know if you can hear it, but they're totally doing construction outside. They're apparently tearing up the street. So sorry if you can hear it, what have you. I know I can hear it. All right, so from here, you're going to do a row in the back loops only, the loops furthest away from you, to so that we get a nice ridge for the unworked, and we're going to go in after we finish her body and all, and make her a skirt, you know, attached to make a skirt. So now from after row 7, if you're going to do the top of the dress a different color, you would change colors in the yarn. But if not, you know, you can continue working in the pink if that's going to be the top of your dress. All right, so for row 8, let's drop some stitches. I'm going to continue in the pink. So far, as far as the body and the legs and such, this is what that looks like. And I gotta tell you, I picked the colors to be, you know, cute and, you know, like, I guess doll-like or childlike, you know, colors or whatever, light pink, light yellow. The cafe latte is the skin color. And I'm looking at it and I and I glanced at it and I said, it looks like ice cream to me, like the Neapolitan ice cream. I think that's what they call it. So, yummy, yummy. All right, so now for row 8, we're going to drop some stitches. So you can crochet the first 2 together and then 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then 2 together. So I come up with 20 for that row, and approximately 20 is what you should have. All right, so now you're going to work from row 9 to row 16, 1 single crochet all the way around, and you'll follow your stitch marker up your scrap piece of yarn in a contrasting color. And you should have between about 19 and 21 stitches for this. Since we just dropped for row 8. All right, so here we go. I worked up to row 16, and to be honest, even though we did the decrease, I think I must have skipped a stitch. You know, that I told you before that happens with the scrap yarn and all that wonderfulness, you know, which is not so wonderful, but it does happen. That's life. All right, so from here, I'm going to stuff her. I'm going to stuff her body, and I'm going to move my light also because I can see my lighting is not doing well. All right, so I'm going to stuff her bottom, and I told you before I use the polyfill, the light fluffy stuff that gets everywhere as it breaks apart. and your stuffing and all that wonderfulness. Okay, so from here I'm gonna stuff you know, as much as I can get in her body. You can remove your stitch marker, your scrap yarn. You want to support your piece. Mine's not coming out. Okay. Alright, there we go. Alright. So, like I say, you always want to get a good amount of stuffing without totally stretching out all your stitches and all that stuff, you know. But good amount of stuffing in the bottom so that she can sit. You know, if you lean her up against something. Alright, so from here, we're going to start dropping stitches and decreasing till we can close her up. For row 17, you'll crochet the first 2 stitches together. And if you hold your finger down, it'll keep the stuffing out of your way so that, you know, hopefully you're not hitting it and pulling it through. And then you'll do 1 single crochet in the next, and then the next 2 you'll crochet 2 together. And you want to and we're going to keep doing this, dropping the stitches. Wait, I gotta sneeze. Okay, doing 1 and then the next 2 together until you can close her up. But make sure, you know, before you totally seal her up, that she has, you know, as much stuffing as you want to fill her up. So it gets a little hard to pull the stitches, you know, with the stuffing inside. So I have a tiny little space left. I'm going to see if I get a little smidgen of stuffing up in there. Last shot at getting the stuffing in there. And be careful with your, you know, your working yarn, the yarn that you're pulling. So she's kind of shaped like a pear. Her body is kind of shaped like a pear. And I think that's about it for me. I think that's as small as I can get it. And no worries, you know, we're gonna leave yourself a tail for sewing. If you did not leave a tail on the head, leave yourself a tail from the top of the shoulders, neck, so that you could sew your head on. Alright. But this is what it looks like so far. I got a string I gotta tuck in here. Here's my top. I'm going to use this to sew on. Here's her head. So this is basically, you know, we got to do her arms and her skirt and, you know, her face and detailing and stuff like that. Alright, so but this is what you should have so far. And also don't forget that ridge that we made after row 7. Sorry, I'm looking at my pattern. Okay, that ridge that we made after row 7, that's where her skirt's gonna go, or the bottom of her dress. Alright, so I'm gonna sew on the head with a yarn needle. One thing with sewing on the head is you want to do small stitches tight to the very bottom of the head. You don't want, you know, you don't want to have it all crazy where you see all of the yarn and stuff. And, you know, sometimes these things just take a little practice. You know, maybe the first head doesn't get, you know, the first time you're making an ami like this, the head doesn't get sewn on so perfect or what have you. But, you know, you practice and you little trial and error, and you work it out, right? So that's what that's going to look like. I'm going to sew it on now, and I'm probably going to do this in time lapse so that I'm not, you know, talking away here. So it's on there pretty good, not bad. I think I did all right. Okay. So from here, I'm just gonna get rid of my thread here, my yarn. And remember, like I said, you know, you'll have to reshape and everything because you're squishing it down to try and get the needle through and all of that. So just remember, you know, no worries on that. You'll reshape and it'll be fine. So from here, we'll start working the arms. So in the arms, we're starting from the hands up. So whatever your skin tone is, if you did a light one or a dark one or whatever, this is I think this is like a when I thought of this one, I kind of had it as, you know, a customized, you know, doll for your child or your, you know, what have you. Okay, so if you start with a slip knot, that's fine. I don't do that. I start with a crossover on my hook. So you'll chain 2, 1, 2, and in that second chain from the hook, we'll do 6 single crochets, and again, you'll work around your tail so that you can just close up that loop. So there you go. So from here, that starting knot, that starting tail, let's just make a little knot so that it's done and it's out of our way, and it'll hold that first loop nice and tight. Okay. So from here, you're going to do it 1 single crochet all the way around, and what you want to do is push as you work. You'll push back, because when you work in such a small loop, that it always wants to show the wrong side of the stitches. So we don't want that. So you'll add your scrap yarn in. So for the arm, you'll work 1 single crochet all the way around, 6 single crochets each row for the first 5 rows in the skin color, because she's wearing short sleeves. So it's a little hard. It's a small, you know, it's a very small circle. But follow your stitch marker and keep a nice tight grip, and you should be all right. So now from here, from row 6, I'm going to do a color change, and I'm going to do 3 more rows. And you can stuff if you like. I'm not stuffing the arm. The arm isn't stuffed, but you can stuff it if you like, if you feel it needs it, you know, your choice, of course. So once you do the color change, you could take out your scrap yarn. You really don't, you're not going to need it. So just make sure you pull a tail at the end. Do a slip stitch in your very last one and pull a tail so you could sew it to the body and snip off and all that wonderful stuff. And just a tip or side note, whatever, whenever you don't need a tail as long as I cut them, but don't cut a short tail for sewing, because you have to thread a needle, you have to get it through and all that kind of stuff, and then knot it off and everything. So, you know, just a side note or what have you. So here are her arms. I'm going to sew them on. Super cute. And then we'll go back in and we'll do her skirt. So just make sure you line them up with the sewing as far as you want them, you know, to be sewn at the start of, you know, the same row, and make sure they come down, you know, even on either side. So you might want to try to pin it, or, you know, tack it in place. That's another good thing about a long tail. So you can see what you know, where you want to place them and such. Alright, so I'm going to sew mine on, and after that, we'll work up her skirt, and then we will give her some hair and stuff, right? Give her a little mouth if you like, and some hair. So let me get to sewing. Okay, so this is my seam of where my color changes is underneath, and that's what her first arm looks like so far. And I'm going to attach her second arm. And sometimes a bird's eye view will help you make sure that it's, you know, straight. So you just want to make sure you get, you know, every stitch closed here. Now, this is a side note or a tip or what have you. Sometimes when you sew on the arms, what happens is they will be like this, and they won't go down. They'll keep doing that. And it's silly and what have you. Just a silly thing. All right, so but what you want to do, or what you can do, rather, is, if I can get the needle through. Okay. What you can do is go through on one side of the arm and then across, small stitches, you know, just across a little bit lower than where your connection is, where your armpit is, or what have you. Whoops. All right, and then go up on the other side and pull it nice and tight, and then, you know, make that your last stitch, hopefully. And you could go through, you know, a couple of times, all right, to keep it from you know, sticking out, because sometimes when you attach the arms, when the arms are made separate from the body and you sew them on, it just does that, you know, because they're stuffed and whatever. Not necessarily when they're not stuffed, but usually when they're stuffed, that happens. And also, you know, the way you attach them and other things, you know, it's not always the stuffing or whatever. So that's what she looks like so far. Oh, I'm undecided. Should we do the skirt first or the hair first? I guess the skirt, and then the hair after. Hair after for finishing touches. But super cute. The skirt I'm doing in yellow to match the shoes. That's why I did yellow shoes. I was going to do black shoes. I think I mentioned that earlier, or probably I chopped it out of the video when I was editing so that it wasn't too much chitter-chatter and stuff. Because I know I chat you up in these videos. Here we go. So attach where you like, but we're attaching in this ridge here that we did row 7. No, maybe row 7. Row 7 of the body. I'm looking at my pattern trying to tell you, and I just Alright, so attach any way you like. I guess I should attach right in the center of the back because it doesn't matter too much. All right, so let's attach. So so you'll go around in one row of single crochet for the first row on this. So this is row 1 of the skirt. So one row of single crochet all the way around. Oh, that's hard. Maybe next time well, it'll get easier as I go, right? It's hard because it's hard to hold it. It's hard to hold her to do the row because she's stuffed. So maybe next time I do that first, right? Maybe next time I make her, we do that first. So it should be, I think it's 24 stitches on that, right? So be careful not to pull too hard. So you should be somewhere 24. You might have more. Hopefully you don't have less. All right. I don't really have, I lost count. I'm sorry. I was struggling to get the hook in and I lost count on that. Okay. So from here, if you like, you could slip stitch. I'm sorry, not if you like. Slip stitch. All right. So we're going to increase. So you'll do 2 in the first and 1 in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 in the one after that, and you'll repeat that for the row. Okay, I come up with approximately 32 stitches, actually 33, and then my chain, so around 34 stitches approximately, and that's with that increase. Alright, so from here I'm going to slip stitch, chain 2, go right back in and do a double crochet in that same right where you just slip stitch and chained. Okay, and then do 1 double crochet in the next 3 stitches and 2 in the one after that, and repeat that for the row, and so that we give her a nice skirt that bells out nice, and you know, a nice little fan bell is better, belling out skirt. Okay, and that chaining is going to count as a double crochet for this row. So approximately 42, I think I come up with. All right, so I'm just going to do one more row in the double crochet. I'm not going to increase for this row. I'm just going to do one more row. So row 4. I'm sorry. So am I wigging? Okay, so row 4, 1 DC in each, and then we'll do the hair. All right, so for row 4 of this, 1 double crochet each stitch. You'll snip off, weave in, I'm not going to waste your time showing you how to do a double crochet because you already know, because we just did it. All right, so now for the hair, I'm going with Coffee is the name of the color. It's a deep brown. It's a nice chocolatey type brown, because brown hair is yeah, it's what I'm going for. All right, so this is what she looks like so far, and more or less, in case you wanted to know, she stands about 7 inches tall, 7.5, approximately 7 to 7.5 inches tall is the size she is. So cute, pocket sized, especially for winter. You could stick her in your pocket and go. Well, not you, you know, your child or whomever you're making this for and what have you. All right, so now with the hair, if you've never done this before, if you've never seen it done before, what have you, you're going to pull yarn. You don't want to cut shorter. Even if you're going to do short hair, you don't want to cut shorter than, say, about 6 inches, because you can, it gets doubled over when you put it through. So 6 inches is pretty good, and you want to cut a few at a time. You can do this. I don't have a book or something else handy to show you this, but what you can do is you want to do it approximately 6 inches long. Let's see if it's this way. Yeah, way too long. Okay, I have this. Smudge off. They're microfibers cleaning for your glasses. All right, so what you can do is you can wrap it if you have something, you know, a book or what have you. So not super tight, all right, not super tight. All right, I don't have anything bigger out. So, but if you did have something bigger, what have you, you would just wrap it around 6 inches approximately is what you're aiming for. You don't want to, you know, because you need room to work, and then we'll give her a haircut after. You know, you're going to trim it up because it's not going to go in perfectly even anyway. So you would wrap this as many times as you can or what have you, and then just cut along one side with your scissor, if you can get it in. Alright, so this would be your hair, okay? So this is it's less than 6 inches, I'm sorry, but actually, oh no. Alright, it came out about 6 inches. At least the first strand did. Anyway, so as much as you need, and then you can always go back and cut more. Of course, let me reposition this. Okay. So what you would do, you can do it in the hook you were using, or a smaller hook is probably better. Let's see. Alright, I always do the first one in the wrong direction, so here's hoping. Alright, so you would go under your stitches, right on the crown, fold your piece of yarn in half, okay, hook on, pull it through, not all the way, you have a little loop, grab your yarn, push it through, and then pull it tight. Okay, so that's your first hair. And I did do it backwards because I'm going for an updo. So I knew, it's so funny because I said, oh, you know, you know, when you think, you're like, oh, I'm going to do it backwards. Nope, not this time. And yeah, I did it backwards. All right, so you want it all around the same row, of course. And you're just going to pop it in under your stitches. And if you can't get it through with your fingers or your nails, which my nails are terrible right now, Thanksgiving totally destroyed them, okay? And that would be to do them up if you were going to do, not do bangs. I'm not doing bangs. But I do want to cut this hair longer because I want longer hair. That's why, haha. Alright, so you cut your hair and you'll start putting it in just like I showed you. You go under and you pull it through, you make your little knot, and then you move nice and, you know, pull it nice and tight, and then you move on to the next. And don't put too much hair in, because what'll happen is you'll start yanking out your stitches way too much, and that's no good. So, you know, you can cut as many as you like, you know, just doubling them over. She's gonna need a haircut either way, you know, as straight as you try and get them in or whatever it is, she's gonna need a haircut when you you know, finish her up. That's just kind of how that goes. And just be careful with your, you know, your stuffing. Try not to get too much of your stuffing out. So that's what she looks like so far. I'm doing an updo. If you're you know, not doing an updo, I figure I'll do a little ponytail right at the center of the head, and then she'll have some hair coming down, you know, half up, half down, or maybe a full up. I'll see how I do. All right. So, but from there, that's how that's going to go. And then if you want to do a mouth or any facial, you know, expressions or any other embellishing, of course, that's your choice. All right. So, but from here, I think you more or less got it. You'll follow where you want the hair to go, a little lower in the back, you know, depending on how you're doing and all that. So with that being said, you'll see the pictures, you know, of the finished item right now. And I hope if you did make her, I'm calling her my Bree doll. So if you did make Bree, I hope you like making her. I hope you learned something, or, you know, got inspired, or, you know, tips and tricks and stuff, whatever I told you on this video. I hope it helps you, you know, as far as other projects also, you know. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Come back, you know, visit me. I have all new patterns. Currently, aside from this one, I have 2 other videos in the works that I need to finish up, but I said, you know, I better get at least one done, because I seem to, every so often, I think I seem to have so many ideas popping and what have you, that I just I get a little jumbled, and I try and get, you know, so many done at one time, and just a little craziness, and then I know it just delays me, and I shouldn't do that. But anyway, so if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. As always, happy hooking, because it keeps you off the streets, keeps you out of trouble, and all that good stuff, and makes you look super cool. And I'll be back again with another tutorial real soon. And I guess that's it. So, Crochet Basics. I think this is 144. And I'll be back soon. And questions, comments below, all that good stuff and everything. Thank you so much for watching. Have a super great day. Bye.